Can you hear me? No, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
I was muted. Rookie mistake.
I can't get it to my bottom screen, so I'm going to be looking up the whole time.
Just thought you liked how your chin was so high.
No.
What's up, Mike? Are you having to let everybody in one at a time?
Yeah, I'm just admitting people as they're joining.
Okay.
Hey, John, sorry my mic was muted.
Yeah, good job, Mike.
Hey, getting it out of the way now.
There's probably a good pun in there somewhere, but I didn't think about it too quick.
Yeah, I heard it and just bypassed it. It's not a big deal.
Hey, I see the Fords there. What's up? Hey, Justin, there wasn't a running video today.
Yeah, what the heck? Ruined my day.
Andy's on mute talking to us, so it's fine.
It's even better.
Awesome. We'll give everybody a couple more minutes. Get logged in.
I hate long intros though, so we won't waste your time. We'll get right to it.
No, we'll jump right into it.
40 minutes.
Exactly. Time's ticking. We only have 40 minutes. That's the time limit on Zoom because I guess we don't pay for premium. So we will not ramble. Get right to it.
All right. Angela, you want to go ahead and start the recording of the Zoom? Or did you already? Looks like you already have it.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Look at her. Oh,
Awesome.
yeah, recording something left.
Well, it's 8:01. Everybody can jump in as they start to come through here. But first of all, thank you all for hopping on with us. This is going to be kind of one of those things where we're not necessarily committing to a consistency of this quite yet. I think there's a little bit of fear in both Angela and Mike of how often do we want to do these. But really what I think is cool about it is just thinking about both of the knowledge of all the people that Angela and Mike have worked with in the past, kind of starting to combine, and Kaylee will jump on here from time to time as well, and probably Megan too. Really trying to start to share as much information as we can. Between the both of them, they've worked with around 500 to 600 different clients over the past several years. And so there's a lot of different things that you can see, really patterns of where people struggle and what's really hard and kind of breaking just that cycle when people are trying to lose weight. So if you don't know or recognize everybody on here, obviously Angela Roller is my wife. She is NASM certified personal trainer. She's a fitness nutrition certified. She is weight loss specialist certified and a behavior change specialist certified. So a lot of words in there with a lot of certifications. And then you also have Mike Wallard, who Mike joined us back in June of this year, but really Mike's been doing a lot of training before now, and Mike has a lot of certifications as well. So he is NCSF certified personal trainer and nutrition certified. He has a degree in health education, health promotion, and human performance with a minor in exercise science, and finished a minor in dietetics. So a lot more degrees than I have for sure. So one of the things though, really the topic we wanted to talk about tonight is 4 reasons why a lot of people struggle to lose weight. And obviously these aren't all encompassing, but really again are kind of 4 of those kind of top reasons why we see with clients as they're coming to us, just asking for help, and some of the places that we start. So Angela, why don't you kick things off? We've been talking a little bit about this today, as you've been stressed out about having this call, really how stress actually plays a huge factor in people, even though when they're doing some of the right things, their body doesn't want to lose weight.
Yeah, so this is something that Mike and I have been working with quite a few clients on. And honestly, I recognize a lot of the names on this call right here. So this will be good just to explain like why we do push a lot of the things that we push. Like it seems like common sense. And I think that's the biggest part of it is it seems common sense. You know, stress, we're going to talk about sleep, we're going to talk about under eating, we're going to talk about recovery. But I think knowing the science, I've noticed with a lot of my clients, if they notice or know the science behind it, they're able to practically make better decisions because there's more of a why behind it. And so I always refer to this as, if you don't take care of these 4 factors before you enter a weight loss phase, before you try to diet and lose fat, it's kind of like trying to go to sleep after drinking 3 energy drinks. It's just kind of pointless. Like, you can't really focus on sleep until you take care of this primary, base level of the pyramid, of the foundation. And so number 1, the first thing I'm going to talk about is stress. And so a lot of you have, 4 kids, you have a high stress job. So lowering your stress is kind of a comical idea, probably something that you're not just going to wake up and decide to take care of this. But I think knowing the science behind it, it's a little alarming. And so I wrote down some notes, and cortisol, everyone knows about cortisol. It's the stress hormone. It has a lot of scary and very unpleasant side effects. And so cortisol directly has a correlation with storing body fat, specifically around your organs and around your waistline. So that's never a good sign. By having those elevated cortisol levels, you're literally directly promoting midsection fat storage. And so that's like the hormone you need to store fat around your stomach. And it also stores fat around your organs, which raises your cholesterol levels, which will make you pre-diabetic, if you don't get it in check. And so cortisol just has so many unpleasant side effects, that being one of them. Number 2 is cortisol makes you crave high fat, high sugar foods. It directly affects the hormone ghrelin and leptin. So ghrelin makes you hungry. We'll just call it the hunger hormone. When you're starving, you feel like you're hangry, like you're going to freak out if you don't get food, which I do feel that quite a bit, especially now. That's your ghrelin hormone just skyrocketing. And when you have high cortisol, you have high ghrelin pretty much all the time. So high hunger is directly correlated with high stress, high cortisol. So obviously you're going to eat more, you're going to crave more of those high sugar, high fat foods. And I think the correlation between fat storage is pretty obvious with that. Another interesting fact that I've read about too is your craving for high fat and high sugar foods. It might be like, why am I craving that when I have high cortisol? And the reason is because you have such a pleasure hormone release with indulging in those foods, especially if you have a poor relationship with food. If you're eating that for comfort, for that hormonal release that gives you that pleasure sensation after you eat one of your favorite meals, that's why your body goes to that and like really tends towards that when you're really stressed out. So obviously that relationship is pretty obvious.
Hey, Angela. So a question on that for you. So as someone who, you've struggled with this in the past, where you've been really open that you would binge eat at night, and you would go buy 35 cookies and throw the cookie dough away before I could get home because you were embarrassed about it. But a lot of that being stress induced, and how did you cope with that? Because I mean, I know it's easy to say, like, you started to, lower your stress. We all get that. But what are some of those tangible things that you've done to help combat that?
A lot of that was centered around the restriction indulging cycle, which is something that, me and Mike are very passionate about, where if you're restricting food and all these foods are off limits, then it makes you crave it more. And then you go to that, especially when you're stressed. And so for me, I had to be really intentional about not restricting. So when I was stressed, I didn't have this massive craving for my forbidden foods. And so for me, the whole secret to breaking my history of binging was centered around to stop restricting, which is what we really passionately try to help all of our clients with. I made apparently a controversial TikTok on how you can have pasta and not derail your weight loss, your weight loss journey. So I guess people don't understand, you can have, some of those bad foods and still make progress. And so that's what we really work towards, is trying to get women, to understand that they can have, pizza, they can have carbs, occasionally when they go out to eat. And it just helps you get out of that restrictive cycle that I found myself in for a long time. So another, thing, just fact about cortisol, about stress, when you have high stress levels, maybe because you have a high stress job, maybe you have 4 kids and your eating schedule is on the back burner, like you're not worried about getting in your breakfast, lunch, dinner, and afternoon snack. You can have a really erratic eating schedule. So you might not eat until 3 p.m. That's the first time you can get a meal in front of you. And then when you have high cortisol, so your body is in a state that's directly promoting belly fat storage. If you're not eating till 3 p.m. and then you're like, okay, I have a free moment, and you intake all these calories, the likelihood of that being stored literally directly to belly fat is really, really high. So those eating schedules where I've eaten the first thing, I've eaten for the first time today at 4 p.m. That's really terrible. If you have high stress paired with that, it's a recipe for disaster. It's going to make fat loss really, really difficult. And my final point, final interesting finding on just high stress, high cortisol is your prefrontal cortex. I've heard a lot of trainers talk about this, but it's really important because your prefrontal cortex, I'm just going to call it the PFC because that's a tongue twister, and I'm going to get tongue tied if I say that too many times, but it's responsible for willpower, planning, making rational decisions. And there's been a lot of studies that I found even when I was researching leading up to this call, and I've researched in the past where high cortisol directly impacts your PFC directly. And so it results in more impulsive behavior. You're not able to exercise any sort of willpower. It's one of the first parts of your brain that's affected by stress. And so I think just knowing how, your crazy schedule, how your high stress levels are directly, counteracting your chances of losing weight is really important, just to show you the importance of moving to the coping. So a lot of these can be really common sense. A lot of times you hear lower your stress levels, go for a walk, take a bath. And it's kind of like, how practical is that? But just being, more factual, movement and walking, even just walking. I can't tell you how much I found research correlating walking with lowering your cortisol levels, getting your blood circulating through your body. Transports your cortisol to your kidneys, and then you're able to flush out cortisol. Like you can actually get rid of it out of your body through just walking and movement, where if you're sitting and you're eating after a long day, your cortisol is going to stay right there in your body. You're going to have all the terrible side effects that I listed before. So just even going on a 10-minute brisk walk, they say can move the cortisol to your kidneys and allows your body to flush it out. The second thing you can do to cope with this is to eat slower. So if you are somebody who I've eaten for the first time today at 4 p.m., if you're sitting there and you're just scarfing and inhaling your food, that's going to be really terrible. It's going to really promote that fat storage. So even just taking time, making sure that you're spacing that out over 30 to 40 minutes, they said that in and of itself can reduce cortisol, which I thought was really interesting. Lowering your caffeine intake. If you're stressed the heck out and you wake up every day and your body's in flight or fight mode and you're intaking, 2 3Ds or 2 bangs a day and 3 cups of coffee, I found a statistic that you're elevating your cortisol even by 25% more by taking 2 to 3 cups of coffee on top of a high stress personality or high stress schedule anyway. So if you're taking in energy drinks, multiple cups of coffee, and you're stressed out, you are just adding literally fuel to the fire. And it's just going to create a complete storm inside of your body where you are physically unable to lose fat and be in a fat burning state. And then a really practical thing, this is something I had to do when I was really high stressed, is I had to lower my daily expectations. I'm not going to make a list of 25 things that I need to get done that day. It's not realistic. It's going to stress me out. And so I still am a firm believer of waking up and having 1 to 2 things. If I accomplish this today, then it's a win for me. And that paired with time blocking, especially because I'm a type B, I'm not a hyper type A scheduled person. So time blocking throughout the day has helped me significantly with stress. Don't shake your head at me, John. I'm working on it. Okay. But those are like some practical things, the movement. So you can flush out, that cortisol, eating slower, lowering your caffeine. And overall, I know it sounds woo woo or whatever, but just lowering your daily expectations, like not expecting everything to go perfect every single day, not expecting to have a clean house all the time, like just kind of learning to let things go, which is definitely a process, but there's a lot of research that can really help you get out of that stress state and give your body a fighting chance to lose fat.
Well, I feel like I do my best work when I'm stressed out. So I don't know.
Well, you're not women either, and it's definitely like elevated with women as well.
No, true.
Procrastination for the win.
That's right. All right. So, hey, one of the things I didn't mention too, if you have questions, throw them in the chat box and we'll try to answer them as we go. Mike, let's go to the next topic though, really, which I thought was kind of an interesting one as y'all were discussing this. And one of the reasons why people are not losing weight is because they're under eating.
Yeah.
Unpack that. What do you see in the clients that you work with and why is it so important?
For sure. Yeah. Under eating is hands down probably the most common thing that I see come from clients as far as issues that they don't lose weight simply because our bodies are built for survival. And so basically what that happens is as our body sees that we're eating less and less food, it starts to what's called metabolic adaptation. And so it starts to slow things down. It starts to adjust. It starts to adapt to this process or this livelihood of not getting much food and not getting it very often. And so it starts to slow down these processes that make it a lot tougher to accomplish our goals. So whether that's no energy for building muscle, poor recovery, hormones being out of balance, mood swings, added stress, like Angela just talked about. So us under eating creates this stressful lifestyle that affects cortisol levels. It makes us hungrier. So then ghrelin spikes, and that leads to binge eating. And then now we're mad because we didn't make good progress because we just binge ate. And so now our stress is even worse. And so then we eat. So it just kind of creates this endless cycle of just this unhealthy relationship, both with food, with yourself, with your body image, things like that. But even just from a why can't you lose weight perspective, I've had a lot of clients that come to me and, they're eating 1,500 calories. I have a client that's a male, 6'3", 260 pounds. And anytime we've ever had struggle getting weight off of him, it's been because he's averaging 1,500 calories a week. We up his calories, which then fosters the ability for him to recover well, for him to build muscle, him have the energy to do things, and that we break through those weight loss plateaus every time. I think that's one of the biggest standout things is just how it affects what's called your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And so you've got 4 different components that 3 to 4 kind of components to make up the calories we burn in our day. We have our BMR, which is our basal metabolic rate. That's what you basically burn just to kind of keep the lights on. You sit at home and do nothing. That's how many calories you're going to burn. So the more muscle you have, the higher that number goes up. You also burn calories while you eat. About 10% of your calories comes from that, from digestion using those foods. And then you have your exercise that honestly accounts for a very small percent of how many calories you burn in a day. And then you have your NEAT. And this is what most studies kind of focus on, because the longer you're in a deficit, the lower your calories are and things like that, the lower that NEAT goes. And that non-exercise activity is the desire to get up and get a glass of water, fidgeting like I'm doing with a highlighter right now, anything like that your body basically just subconsciously stops you from doing that. And so what that does is then lowers your metabolic rate, lowers how many calories you're burning in a day. For one of the studies I read is basically like a 2,000 calorie swing one way or the other based on just eating enough food to foster this desire and this ability to burn calories and to have a healthy relationship with all of that. So that's what I see is one of the biggest hangups for clients. Most of them it's the under eating kind of combined with the I need to do more mentality. And so clients that come in that aren't losing weight, so they're combining this super low calorie intake with also let me run 5, 6, 7, 10 miles a day, and let me do 2-a-day workouts. Hey, I'm going to double up on this. Hey, I'm just going to eat less. Hey, and so they just kind of keep pounding away. And so what that does is a lot of long-term metabolic damage. And so then that's one of Angela and I's probably worst nightmares is when a client comes to us and so much metabolic damage has been done. Their metabolism is running so slow. They have a desire to lose 50 pounds, but they don't even lose weight on 900 calories. And so now we have to reverse diet where we slowly increase their calories over a fairly long extended period of time, depending on how bad the damage is, just to get their metabolism running efficiently. and then we can start the caloric deficit and the weight loss process. So it's one of those areas that we kind of want to avoid and want all of our clients to avoid. That eating food is good, food is fuel, and being able to use that to fuel our workouts, being strategic with where we place our carbs throughout the day. When we're less active, that's when your protein and fasting kind of come in, and kind of strategically placing that into place, so that making those the foods that we decide to eat, making sure that they have a purpose, but also making sure that you're in enough of a deficit that when we hit plateaus, we have wiggle room to still bring those calories lower. If we drop those calories by 1,000 and you're eating 1,500 and not losing weight, we don't really have much wiggle room to go anywhere. And that's when the reverse dieting process kind of comes in. So
and to that point too, like I've actually talked with women before. I talk with a friend all the time, and she probably she's lost, 30 pounds. She's not on this call. So she's lost 30 pounds, and she's done it by eating 900 calories a day. And she tells me, but I'm not hungry. And I'm like, that's literally a terrible sign. And so, we can even talk about, we won't get into that, but even your lack of hunger, if some client is eating 1,200 calories a day and they tell us, well, I'm not hungry, I'm full, like that's a really big red flag, that you're in metabolic adaptation and that everything has slowed down so much that we're going to have a lot of problems in the future.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
There's a lot of science there that Mike that you threw out.
Yeah.
What do you think the main reason why people feel like they have to have this desire that I've got to eat such low calories? Is this just from, you think about all the kind of yo-yo diets and all the diets that come through, we'll do keto, we'll do this, we'll do that. What do you think is the main driving factor why people fight that so much?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of facets. I think that the media does a pretty poor job. I think, Hollywood and celebrities and even your fad diets, that, like I've talked about in my podcast before, that the supplements themselves are not bad, but Herbalife, where they have, these weight loss challenges, 60 pounds in 60 days and all these sorts of things, that I think it creates this mindset that, that's the only way, or that's the best avenue. We're also a very selfish people. We want immediate gratification. We want all these things. And so I think seeing like, okay, well, let me just give me 3 weeks, I'll just, eat 500 calories. The HCG diet's another popular one, where you take these little drops or whatever, and you eat 500 calories a day for however long, I don't even know. Then you lose all this weight and you're good to go. And then you can't eat normal after that. And so I don't think people realize the damage that it does during that amount of time. And so for me, I think it really is just half of it's just not knowing that there's a better way. I think everybody thinks that you're supposed to be miserable. You're supposed to only eat salads, and that you're got to just truck through, get the body you want for the summer. And then you just kind of revert back to old habits, instead of seeing that there's a lifelong way of making healthier choices, making healthier habits. And that doesn't make you super miserable.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. And actually, Amber commented, she said, I think a lot of it's a skewed view on calorie deficit. And you think about how fast someone's trying to lose it. Angel's always preached, if you lose it fast, you're going to gain it back fast, rather than being slow and methodical, so that you've got room to go as you hit a plateau. I think that's really good.
Yeah, that's great.
Angela, so kind of moving on to the next spot too. Again, another one of those things that people talk about all the time, but don't necessarily focus on, is sleep. Why is that a big problem for your clients whenever they're trying to lose weight?
Yeah. So, Mike and I troubleshoot a lot. If we're working with a client and it's been a few weeks in and things just aren't moving in the right direction, that's why Mike and I really start honing in on these things. But people really don't want to take it seriously. They don't want to pay attention to, some of the basics, stress, sleep, all of that stuff. They just want to get to the fat loss. But I think our message here is you can't get there without taking care of this first. And so I'll start asking my clients, how much are you sleeping at night? And they're like, well, I'm going to bed at 1 a.m. Like, there we go. That's kind of my clue. Something's going on. So when you sleep less than 7 hours a night, you have a 41% increased obesity risk. And there's just a really direct correlation with poor sleep and obesity. For several reasons. It increases your cortisol. Cortisol is the literal devil when it comes to losing weight. And so that's why my stress and my sleep go hand in hand. is because another way to increase your cortisol and make it really hard for your body to be in a fat burning state is to sleep less than 7 hours a night. So your resting metabolic rate, what you burn just sitting in a chair all day long, it decreases when you sleep less than 7 hours a night. And there's been research that if you just get one night of 8+ hours of sleep, you can restore your RMR, your resting metabolic rate, how much you burn in a day, just after one good night of sleep. And so when you do your catch up on the weekends, so you're sleeping 4 to 5 hours, you're exhausted all week long, your body is in such a low RMR, you're not burning many calories throughout the day because it's not recovering at night. You get your catch up on Saturday morning and you sleep, until 10 a.m. if you're able to. If you're a mom, that's pretty non-existent. But if you do have that weekend catch up sleep, your RMR is better for a day, but then you go back to sleeping less than 7 hours a night and then it drops again. And so basically, someone like me, I'm sleeping a lot right now. So my resting metabolic rate is like way up high. And somebody who's sleeping, 5-6 hours every single night, they're burning this many less calories than I am in a day. And we're doing the same exact activity. It's just that I'm recovering at night and my body's in a better place metabolically to burn fat and burn calories throughout the day. So that's just a really big piece of making sure you're taking care of that. When you sleep less than 7 hours, you crave more. Your ability to digest reduces. So craving more foods, craving those fatty foods, and then your ability to digest it decreases. So you're intaking more calories, you're not breaking it down, that equals fat storage. So that's a recipe for disaster. My clients that stay up late, watch TV shows until midnight, there are chances of late night snacking, going to, who are you pointing to? You?
Yeah, me.
Chances of going to the fridge, going to the pantry and doing that late night snacking. I mean, obviously that's kind of a given. We've talked about ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin, I always remember this when I was going through my certifications. Ghrelin, I would think of growling, like my stomach's growling when my ghrelin's high. And so that's how I would remember it. But ghrelin's your hunger hormone. That's supposed to reset with 7+ hours of sleep. So that never gets reset. So your hunger's higher. And as I said, your ability to digest nutrients and digest food goes down. It can lead to insulin resistance. Mike touched on this a little bit. So insulin resistance just basically means that when you're intaking calories, you're intaking glucose, and your body secretes insulin to break that down, and your insulin it's resistant and it's not able to break down the glucose like it's supposed to. And so that means all of that excess glucose is getting stored as fat. It's not being metabolized. And it's basically, I can't think of a better word than just like an internal storm of why you can't lose weight. So a lot of things are just happening with that less than 7 hours of sleep at night. Also, it makes you want to move less, but more movement will help you sleep better. But when you're not sleeping, you don't want to move. And so when you're not moving, then you don't sleep well. And so that's like a perpetual cycle that you can find yourself in. I hear a lot of times, I'm exhausted, I didn't sleep well last night, so I'm not going to work out. But by skipping your workout and not moving, you are increasing your chances of not sleeping that night. And that can be a cycle. I've heard of a lot of people skipping workouts from poor sleep, but it just feeds more poor sleep. And so one of the best ways, I sleep like a baby at night when I'm walking and when I'm moving and when I'm working out. And I think that's something that's really important to help with that. My final point with sleep, if you're sleeping less than 7 hours a night and you are somehow miraculously losing weight, your chance of that weight coming from fat-free mass is exponentially higher, fat-free mass being muscle. So a lot of people are so obsessed with losing weight and the scale going down, but that is such a small piece of the picture. And Mike and I just want to shout that from the rooftops, that just because you're losing weight does not mean you're losing fat. You can be there's just as good chance that you're losing muscle mass as you are fat mass, especially when you are having high cortisol, high stress, poor sleep, under eating, poor recovery. if you're losing 4 pounds a week, that's awesome. It's probably coming from your muscle, and that's not going to be ideal. That's going to slow your metabolism down. It's not something to celebrate, and it's not healthy. It's going to make everything just harder in the future. So us as coaches, we're here to make sure you're losing weight and losing fat mass, not fat-free mass. That's a really big point there. And low sleep supports fat-free mass. So that supports losing weight from your muscle. So our high stress, poor sleep clients that are losing a couple pounds a week, that's actually a bad sign. That can actually be a red flag, like you're probably not losing fat. And so that's something that's really important to know with that.
So Angela, if you're not following the scale, what are those things that you're measuring as a coach to see that someone's making progress in a healthy way?
We do a lot of measurements. You're not going to lose a lot of fat mass, or you're not going to lose a lot of muscle mass from your abdomen. Most women are holding just strictly fat mass around their abdomen. So we do a lot of measurements. I can't tell you how many clients don't lose weight for 4 to 5 weeks, but they lost 3 inches off their waist. And so to me, that just tells me that maybe you're putting on a little bit of muscle mass, but you're losing fat. And even though the scale's not moving, Mike and I just really don't care that much about the scale. We care about your pictures, we care about your strength, and we care about your measurements. If your waist circumference is going down, that's a pretty good indicator that you're losing fat, and that if there is no scale movement, or if there's a little bit, that it is coming from fat mass and not from muscle mass.
Cool.
So,
all right.
I have some more points. Hold on just a second. So this is just like how to get better sleep. I know that a lot of this is going to be common sense, and I don't want to give like, well, no duh kind of points, but some of it kind of is. So if you're waking up and going to the bathroom at night, you're having a hard time falling asleep after that, cut liquids off at 6 p.m. Treat yourself like a child, like a toddler, and cut your liquids off if that's keeping you up and making it hard to go back to sleep. I'm kind of there personally, just with pregnancy, where I cannot be drinking, which I'm drinking this right now, and it's 8:30 p.m. So I'm probably going to wake up 2 times, but that's definitely something you can do. Earlier morning workouts, if you are working out, if you're working out in the evenings, a lot of times that can get that adrenaline release, in the evening. So I recommend working out earlier in the mornings. That way you can wind down. We always tell our clients, cut your screen time an hour before bed, switch to reading or taking a bath. And then white noise is key, because if you have a spouse that snores all night long or makes noises, you need a white noise machine, and it will keep you from killing your spouse and also getting sound sleep. And I do speak from direct experience when I talk about that. So we have white noise going in our room at all times. And that's—
all right, let's wrap this topic up and go to the next one. Mike, let's talk about recovery. Why is that so important when you think about fat loss?
Yeah, so a lot of it kind of piggybacks off of a lot of, sorry, I'm trying to recompose myself since you interjected there. But a lot of it piggybacks off of what Angela was talking about with the proper sleep and things like that. I think recovery is usually one of the first red flags I pay attention to with my clients, especially with when I see the weight loss may or may not be stagnant, things like that. I had a client today that was just out of the ordinary. She goes for runs a lot, and today just kicked her butt. She was super sore from it. She was just really kind of out of it. And so that's one of the first things I take a look at is where their nutrition's at. It's when the recovery starts lasting longer than 2 to 3 days. When recovery starts, you start to see plateaus, you start to see energy dips, things like that. That's when recovery usually is one of the big factors that usually kind of comes into play. And so I'll start taking a look at that. I'll start taking a look at their nutrition. If we added in different workouts and things like that, they kind of affect, maybe it's a higher volume week than it normally is. There's kind of a long list of things that can kind of impact recovery. The under eating side of things, that's why we look at the nutrition. If you're eating too little, then that really affects how quickly that you're able to recover. If your protein is too low, that affects your ability to recover well. When your muscle doesn't rebuild properly, and that damages your metabolism, everything's running slower. So it can cause a lot of headaches if you're not getting enough sleep. That can affect the recovery. You don't have the desire to work out and push yourself. When you're that sore and that banged up, then it really just kind of starts to affect, have this kind of trickle down effect. And even piggybacking off of Angela's first topic with the stress, that added stress of a caloric deficit, of super hard workouts, of your daily job, your parenting, you're doing all these sorts of things. So whenever you have all these kind of different stressful factors coming into play, that then starts to affect your recovery and things like that. So it makes it super tough. So a lot of the pointers that I kind of give my clients as far as improving that recovery, making sure your sleep's good, making sure that you're eating enough, making sure your protein's where it needs to be. Most clients, it's about a gram per kilogram of lean body mass, which is usually tough to kind of measure. So even that gram per pound of body weight is usually just a safe number to do. Usually it's a little bit more than you need, but I'd rather err on the side of too much than not enough. Making sure that you're doing warm-ups pre and post workout. I know it's tough to kind of fit in, a workout as it is. So making sure that you set in 5 to 10 minutes on the front end and 5 to 10 minutes on the back end, just to warm up and cool down afterwards, stretching, foam rolling, things like that. Those can all foster an environment that's going to help with that muscle building and muscle repair. That's going to, in the long term, end up helping you have better workouts. It's going to help you ensure that you're building the muscle you need to speed up your metabolism, which is then going to help you to just have a good, healthy environment to lose weight. It's it's a very circular, everything that we do in life is just very circular. Waking up and having a good routine, and you're getting your workout in and you're being productive, all that kind of snowballs into each other. And so making sure that you're recovering well, just how that helps your body feel better, how you look better, those things motivate you to do your workouts and to do those sorts of things. And so making sure that your recovery is on point kind of has a snowball effect into everything else, and ensuring you're making good progress. So,
and I have a ton of clients. I have probably 4 clients right now that want to work out 6 days a week. And one of the feedback that I'm giving them, I think we give really unexpected feedback to our clients. Eat more, and then work out less. And so I've gotten on there multiple times, like, you've got to stop working out 6 days a week. Like, you're killing your body, you're not recovering, and you're killing your success, and so taking a few rest days or even a rest week, can be really beneficial.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I think that Angela and I were on a Zoom call meeting where we were the ones getting educated the other night. And one of the coaches talked about how just as coaches and paying attention really to our clients, in our minds, we set up these workout programs, and there's kind of like, just some very basic rules and kind of checklists that like coaches go down as far as like building programs, and then we tweak everything and make it customized to our clients. But we know what is most beneficial from a science standpoint of hitting this many body parts, this many sets, this kind of progressive overload, 10,000 steps, eat your protein 4 to 5 times a day, spaced out. We know all these things that are optimal, but it's not necessarily always sustainable for our clients. And so it's making those tweaks and, you kind of figuring it out for yourself as far as like, okay, what can I realistically achieve this week? If you're averaging 2,000 steps a day, jumping to 10,000 steps is probably not going to be successful for you. So setting up those little milestones of like, okay, this week we're just going to jump to 3,000. Next week we'll go 4,000. And just kind of setting up those little baby steps. If you haven't worked out in 2 years, jumping into 5 days a week, not only is probably not going to be beneficial or achievable for you, but your recovery is going to suck. And then you end up injuring yourself, or your recovery is bad. And so then you take a week off, and now you're out of the swing of things. And so it's just being intelligent with it, using common sense and making sure you're setting up goals that are going to be sustainable. You want to push yourself, you want to grow, and you want to get better, but you also want to be realistic and making sure that you're not setting yourself up for failure. That's probably something that Angela and I get a lot with our clients is, people that have run the same diets, run the same workout programs, whatever, 7, 8 times over, and get the same results every time. They can't stick to it. They can't figure out why they can't stick to it. And so that's where having a coach come in and hold you accountable and build something that you can achieve. And then throughout, every 2 to 3 weeks, we're making adjustments and increasing goals. And we have clients that are constantly messaging us like, hey, I had to go buy 10 and 15 pound dumbbells because the 8s are too easy now. Those are the messages that we love receiving, just from people kind of pushing and making that progress. So
Yeah.
recovery.
I think I think we're about to get kicked off here, but we're going to send out a recap, and this is really just the foundation of the pyramid, guys. So like taking care of these 4 things: stress, recovery, not under eating, and sleep. Those are like the primary things you got to have in check before you ever get into a weight loss phase, or you're going to have a really hard time. And so we're dealing with that a little bit. So if we can prep you and show the importance of this, then we've won as coaches. So that's why we wanted to create this. And thank you guys for hopping on. I don't know if it's going to kick us off or.
I actually got a notification that it upgraded and we have unlimited minutes.
We have a limited time. Hey, are there any questions, anything, any kind of burning question? And it doesn't have to necessarily be on this topic. What we honestly would love too is if there's other topics you want to hear about, message us on Instagram or Facebook and let us know so that we kind of know what you want to have. But any questions on what we've talked about?
And I recognize a lot of several clients on, so even if you comment, what's been the aha moment for you or the switch that you've had to make that's helped you, you can definitely throw that out there. And it's always good to hear from other people, but maybe everyone's ready to go to bed and tired and got their.
Justin's got his his kids on.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for hopping on. We appreciate it.
Beneficial.
And, yeah, absolutely. We'll send out a recording to you. We'll have a recording to be able to share if you want to listen back to any part of it. And then we'll let you know as we do more of these.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you.
Have a good week.
I'll see y'all soon.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.